Welcome back to the program here on Coastal Daybreak here on the talk station FM 107 and AM 1240. We welcome into our studio Paloma Campana, who's a recent resident of Carteret County and has organized a free local writing workshop. And this is a special one. Paloma, welcome to the program. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Ben. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, tell us about this workshop in particular, the subject matter here.
Yes. So our subject is hurricane poetry. And obviously that's in reaction to recent events caused by Hurricane Florence right here on the ground in our local area, from which people are still hurting.
Oh, absolutely they are, and will for a while. So have you, I know you're an author, or is it more poetry and prose for you?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is it about poetry then that you feel like people who have very strong feelings, I mean, the range of emotions, like going through stages of grief, really, how do you feel like they can express that well in poetry?
One of the great things about poetry is it's cheap, easy, and fast. So even if you're having a power outage during a hurricane, really all you need is a pen and any piece of paper. And when you grab that and you start to write, at first it may feel as out of control as being in the hurricane, but then you start to shape what's actually going on in your mind. What is it that you're really afraid of? Is it that the roof will come off? Is it that the flood waters will come up? And by writing, you then activate a part of your brain that allows you to feel more control. So if you can get yourself into something called real-time writing, where you are actually writing during the traumatic events.
Oh, wow.
You give yourself a purpose and an outcome that then allows you to share and actually have your hug on the back end.
It's a narration.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Real-time writing, especially for traumatic events, is absolutely about being in the minute. You do get a first draft that you need to edit. Let me caution that that's not an excuse for sloppy, right? There's always hard work to be done for good writing. But you're really trying to capture something so that when you read it for an audience, you should be getting the reaction at the open mic of, thank you so much. That's exactly what I went through. And you said it.
We were talking before you came on. You're a fan of the open mic.
Absolutely. I've been on open mic for decades all over.
And you moved here from where?
From upstate New York, where I will point out it's already snowing. So very happy to be with you this morning.
Yeah. So the open night, I don't know when the next one is. I know that we were publicizing the ones at Crew Wine Bar.
Yes.
But there are some around the area. So right.
There are. I actually am now emceeing the open mic on the first Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Sweet Beans Cafe here in Morehead City.
Okay,
and
good.
Please, we invite everybody to come out. It's free. Don't be shy. We have very experienced published poets, and we have folks who show up who have never read before, and they might be reading their first poem.
Okay. But this idea of real-time writing, that kind of intrigues me, mainly because I deal in a live medium.
Yes.
You know, so we're live every day. I've done live play-by-play of sporting events and live television even. And there's something about that in the moment that does help bring out some things in you. Sometimes good things, not so good, too.
It does. And for me, the best example I can give you is the book I've recently published, Nearly 50. And it's about the 2 weeks right before my 50th birthday, where I had the most unbelievable sequencing of high-intensity events, to the point where you say, wow, I'm amazed that I'm not just sitting down crying a puddle. But you have to cope with events and you have to move forward, because often in the traumatic situation, you have to be making decisions. Are you staying? Are you evacuating? If you're staying, what's your sequencing for preparing, etc.? So you have to find a way to function. And for me, that way to function is writing as a tool. Take 5 minutes to write, get back to preparations. Take 5 minutes to write, move on with what needs doing.
Well, songwriters always say that they're often inspired by events that are sometimes traumatic, depressing, sometimes joyful as well, but they're not the norm. It's not the everyday life or the routine. And a lot of times what we're going through here is we have this a great desire to want to get back to the routine, you know. So that interplay between the non-routine and the routine is, I guess, where you can find that inspiration.
I think so. If you are a writer or if you are a person simply going through a time in your life that's difficult, just about anything is a writing prompt. I've written poems on the back of grocery receipts, leaning on the armrest of my car at a traffic stop. It can be done anywhere. The key is to think of it like a butterfly net. When just those right words start going in your mind and your imagination kicks in, pull over, stop what you're doing, take a minute and catch those words, because you might not hear that same sequencing or combination quite the same again when you try to remember it. But if you've jotted it down and you've got your real-time writing started, then you can often finish your thought.
I know in business we often talk about those as blurts. Those are the things that come to your head. You should go ahead and write them down, not necessarily speak them right away.
There is that. Prudent editing.
Yes, that's right. But write it down so
Yes.
you can make use of it later. In this area, I don't know if you've had a chance yet to visit like Fort Macon, but
Yes.
some of the writings, I found that some of the writings and letters that come from war are just incredible
Yes.
examples of a prose poetry mix.
They are, and they're often accompanied even by sketches. So sometimes you get that crisscross between what is writing therapy, art therapy, right? You've got your right-left brain interaction, not to get sort of too, are we talking political spheres? Are we
Right,
talking
right.
brain hemispheres? But getting yourself into space, physical space, where you can take a minute to breathe, you can focus on yourself and what's happening, and then you can capture it to share, gives you a much more positive outcome and leaves you feeling much less helpless and having much more purpose. So if we're saying, well, how do we avoid a traumatic outcome? A feeling like I don't know what to do. I've been evicted from my apartment. I can't find a place to live. The nearest storage unit is 90 minutes away. Okay, what I've just done there is almost start the beginning of a rant poem, right? Put it somewhere. Put it at the microphone. It almost becomes political at a certain point
Right.
when you're in the
Yes.
middle of a widespread natural disaster. The title of one of my poems is FEMA Spoken Here.
Right. Okay. So where can people find some of your poetry?
On my Facebook page is the best place for Nearly 50, which is the title of my book. You'll find lots of poetry, lots of connection to local events for writers, especially with Carteret Writers Group, fabulous organization here in our county, and just ways to connect with other poets, and even some real-time readings by local poets that we're putting together in a chapbook that we will title #Hurricane Poetry.
And let's talk about your workshop now, when and where that takes place.
Yes, that is at Sweet Beans Coffee and Cafe, 2302G Arundel Street, right here in Morehead City. It's this Saturday, October 27. Workshop at 1 p.m., read and sign by yours truly, the author, at 2 p.m. And if you'd care to give a ring up to Ray at Sweet Beans and sign up for the workshop, that's great. He's at 247-6020.
Again, that's 247-6020 if you want to sign up. But can you just show up as well, too? Is there going to be opportunities for that?
You could do, and I'll have some worksheets. Always
Yeah.
good to know how many copies to bring.
Right, yeah, that's the one thing, because the copying machine is not down the hall. So 247-6020 if you want to sign up for this. Again, it's Sweet Beans Coffee and Cafe this coming Saturday. And Paloma, thanks for joining us this morning. It's been a
Well,
delight.
thank you, Ben. It's been a real treat, and I appreciate everything you do at Coastal Daybreak.
This is Coastal Daybreak here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. We'll have more to come in just a moment.